August 1971, Palo Alto, California. A psychology professor walks into the basement of Stanford University. He's about to run a 2-week experiment. He's turned this basement into a prison. Not a real one, a fake one, with fake guards and fake prisoners. The experiment was supposed to last 14 days. It was shut down in 6, because somewhere around day 2, everyone stopped pretending. It started with a newspaper ad. $15 a day, about $110 in today's money, to take part in a study of prison life. More than 70 young men applied. Zimbardo's team screened every single one. They kept only the most normal, healthy, psychologically stable men. No criminal records, no mental health issues. Average, ordinary college students. 24 made the cut. And then, this is the part people forget, their roles were decided by a literal coin flip. Heads, you're a guard. Tails, you're a prisoner. That's it. No aptitude, no personality difference, chance. The guards got uniforms, whistles, and mirrored sunglasses, so no one could see their eyes. Remember those sunglasses. They matter later. And the prisoners? Real Palo Alto police arrested them at their homes. Handcuffed, fingerprinted, blindfolded. Their neighbors watched it happen. Zimbardo wanted the experience to feel real from the very first second. It worked better than he ever intended. At the prison, each man was stripped, deloused, and given a smock with a number. From that moment, nobody used names. You weren't Doug. You were 8612. Day 1 was boring. Awkward, even. Guards read comic books. Prisoners laughed at their smocks. Everyone knew it was pretend. Then, at 2:30 in the morning, the guards woke the prisoners with whistles for a count. Not because they were told to. The instructions never said to do that. They just did it. It was the first improvisation. It would not be the last. By day 2, the prisoners rebelled. They ripped off their numbers and barricaded themselves in their cells. The guards' response? They attacked the barricade with fire extinguishers, stripped the ringleaders, and threw one into solitary confinement. A dark closet they called the hole. And then the guards did something genuinely sinister. They created a privilege cell. Good prisoners got beds, food, blankets. The rest got nothing. It set the prisoners against each other. Divide and rule, invented spontaneously by a 20-year-old college student in sunglasses. 36 hours in, prisoner 8612, the rebellion's leader, began to break down. Screaming, crying, rage that seemed to come from nowhere. And here's where the experiment claims its second victim, the scientist himself. Because Zimbardo wasn't just observing anymore. He'd given himself a role, prison superintendent. And the superintendent's first instinct wasn't, this young man needs help. It was, he's faking it to get released. Think about that. The man running the study on how roles corrupt people was being corrupted by his role in real time and couldn't see it. They eventually let 8612 go. He was the first. He wouldn't be the last. Days 3 and 4 blur into a routine of invented cruelty. Push-ups as punishment. Cleaning toilets with bare hands. Counts that lasted hours. Prisoners chained together, paper bags over their heads, marched to the bathroom. Because the guards decided the bathroom was a privilege now. One guard became so creatively brutal, the prisoners nicknamed him John Wayne. Before the experiment, his psych evaluation said the same thing as everyone else's. Perfectly normal. He later said he was running his own experiment to see how far he could go before someone stopped him. Here's the terrifying part. Nobody stopped him. Not every guard turned cruel. Roughly a third did. A third stayed strictly by the book, and a third were good guards, kind, even helpful. But not one good guard ever intervened to stop a cruel one. Not once in 6 days.
On day 5, a young psychologist named Christina Maslach came down to the basement. She was dating Zimbardo. She'd come to help with interviews. What she saw instead was a line of chained men with bags over their heads and guards screaming at them. She was horrified. Zimbardo tried to explain it away as fascinating group dynamics, and she said the sentence that ended the whole thing. "It's terrible what you're doing to those boys." She was, by Zimbardo's own later count, the only outsider, out of more than 50 who saw the prison, to ever challenge its morality. The next morning, Zimbardo shut it down, 6 days into a 14-day study. By the end, 5 prisoners had been released early with breakdowns, uncontrollable crying, or stress rashes. These were the most stable young men Stanford could find. It took less than a week. For 50 years, this experiment has been shorthand for one idea, that evil isn't about bad people. It's about situations. Give ordinary people a uniform, power, and anonymity. Remember those mirrored sunglasses? And the role wears the person. Psychologists call it deindividuation, when I dissolves into the role. But here's what most videos won't tell you. The experiment has serious problems. Recordings released decades later caught the warden coaching a reluctant guard to act tougher. Some participants later said they were performing, giving the scientists what they wanted. And a 2002 BBC attempt to recreate the study got a completely different result. The guards were reluctant, and the prisoners took over. The Stanford Prison Experiment is not clean science. It's somewhere between an experiment and a piece of theater that got out of hand. And yet, that might make it more disturbing, not less. Because even if the guards were just performing, they still did it. Real men were still chained, humiliated, and broken. The performance became real for the people inside it. Which raises the question the experiment can't answer, but you can. How much of who you are is just the costume your situation handed you, the job title, the group chat, the uniform? If a coin flip put you in that basement in 1971, which third would you have been? The cruel guard, the by-the-book guard, or the good one who never said a word? In 1961, 10 years before the basement, another experiment asked an even darker version of that question. Not, what does power do to us, but how far will we go just because someone told us to? The answer was 65%. That story is next. If you want to see it when it drops, you know what to do.